Good morning, Warren Peacock here. Today we can see on the matrix that the euro continues to strengthen. It now has a score of 12, and we can see from 2 weeks ago it was on 11, 14, and so on. The daily chart has changed to 4. It's just changed against the US dollar. So certainly euro strength looks set to continue at this point. The hourly chart is particularly stronger than it was last week. The British pound continues its charge, has a score of 17. And on the hourly and the 4 hourly, it's at a maximum score. On the daily, it has a score of 5. The US dollar is the one weakening the most, certainly under pressure. And we can see last week had a total score of 17, dropped to 12, then 9, and then through last week it was 10 and 7. Now it's on a score of 6. On the daily chart, it has a score of 5, so that's lost a point, and that was against the euro. And then on the hourly and the 4 hourly, it's particularly weak. It does leave the pound as the strongest currency still, with the yen as the weakest currency overall. And that's the same on the daily. We've got the pound as the strongest, yen as the weakest. On the 4 hourly chart, we can see the pound against the US dollar as the strongest pair. And then on the hourly, we've got the pound strongest and the Canadian dollar and the US dollar sharing the weakest spot. We're going to have a look at these charts, and we can see the pound yen that just continues to power ahead. It's making new highs. Just the last sort of Friday, Thursday, a little bit of downtime. But if we go down to the smaller time frames, you can see the 4 hourly chart. That trend is still really strong, and the same on the hourly. And there's a potential trade coming up on the shorter time frame here, and we can just draw a trend line in across the two peaks there, and let's put that higher. There we go. So a break above that could see this pound yen continue higher. The pound to the US dollar, and we can just zoom out a little bit, and we can see the pound US dollar broke above resistance and has continued to move higher. There's quite a bit of space for this one to go. If we have a look here, that trend changed some time ago, and it's just making new highs at the moment. A little bit of resistance up there and a swing high up here. If you go down to a 4 hourly chart, and the same story, trend is pretty strong, and we're just waiting for it to push through those highs. On the hourly charts, again, we can see this consolidation, and it has just broken above that internal resistance level, so this certainly looks like a long opportunity on the shorter time frame. The pound to the CAD on the hourly charts, and we can see that trend is pretty strong. It just continues to power ahead, and the breakouts are working reasonably well. So if you did want to make a shorter time frame trade, then pound CAD looks pretty decent. If we go to the 4 hourly chart, we can see these trends pretty strong. And on the daily, a little bit of whiplash, or not so much whiplash, but there's quite big swings in it. Not a great trending pair, but certainly pushing against these highs now. The CAD is under pressure, and the pound is strong. So on the shorter time frames, there's probably some quicker trades. We can just zoom out a little bit and see overall this thing is just strengthening month after month. So certainly if you wanted a shorter time frame trade, this is the one to look at. And then just the euro dollar changing trend against changing trend from down to up. Some resistance coming up over there, and I think a break above that should see euro strength continue. The only concern really is that this can still be a bear flag. There's enough time, that downtrend's been in play long enough for this to be a valid bear flag, but yeah, at the moment looks pretty strong. Trend is up, and a break above resistance could see a trade. And then just an interesting one, very long term, is the US dollar to the CAD, and we can see rounding bottom. Dollar CAD did hit its rounding bottom neckline extension of 261%, so that is an obvious resistance area. And right now we have a standard deviation channel here, potential cup and handle, but this could take really another I would say maybe 8 to 12 months to pull back to the 38% to give me a proper cup and handle. But I think a break above that resistance, and this one's going to continue higher. But at the moment, the dollar's weakening, the CAD is weakening, so this chart could potentially just go sideways and maybe a little bit of up and down, but the trend doesn't seem to have much impetus at the moment. Thank you very much. We'll chat again tomorrow.